All right, boys and girls, here we go. Last one of the Open, 19.5. It's happening. It's out in front of us, and it's a workout. It's another one. So, like everybody knew, it's thrusters and chest to bars, or thrusters and pull-ups. So let's go through the rep scheme. There's not a whole lot to talk about. It's real simple. 33, 27, 21, 15, 9 thrusters and chest to bar pull-ups. RX folks, y'all are going at 95 and 65 in chest to bar. Scaled folks, you're going at 65 and 45, and you're doing jumping pull-ups. So that's the workout. It's 2 movements. It's pretty simple. The downside is it's going to be long. It's going to be taxing. It's going to be a real grind. It does carry a 20-minute time cap. So it's a 20-minute time cap. We do have to remember that. So let's jump right into this thing. Mobility and warm-up, and this will be a very important part of this. You're going to spend just as much time, if not more time, on your mobility and your warm-up combined than you are on this entire workout. So let's start with the first 10 or 15 minutes, working everything that we're getting ready to use. The ankles and the hips, of course, for squatting, and then our shoulders and our lats for pulling and pushing. We're going to need all those nice and warm, nice and loose, and ready to go. So spend a lot of time with the foam rollers, with bands, and with just regular stretching to get all those areas warmed up and moving properly. And then let's go into 2 pieces as far as our warm-up goes. Let's go into 2 pieces this week. I'm personally going to go with an EMOM 8 of 2 movements, front squats and kips. I'm not going to press at all. I'm going to do no thrusters in this piece. I'm going to go 10 front squats on the even minutes, and I'm going to go 10 kips on the odd minutes. It gets my legs working, my hips and my ankles and everything I just worked in mobility. It gets them moving. And then I'm going to jump onto the pull-up bar, and I'm going to hit 10 kips. That'll get the shoulders and the lats moving, which is another thing that we just warmed up and started to mobilize before. The second part of this is getting that cardio portion, getting those lungs fired up and ready to go. And that's going to be really important going into this workout. You're not going to want to go on with a cold chest, with cold lungs. You're going to want to be nice and warm. So I'm going to go on the bike, and I'm going to do some sprints. I'm going to do 4 sets of 10 calories for the guys, 7 calories for the ladies in sprints. These are all out 100% sprints. I'm going to rest 30 seconds in between. It's going to take us about 4 minutes tops, maybe 5 minutes at the most. We'll get a good sweat in, we'll get our heart rate up, and then after that I'll start with my specific stuff. But just remember, if you haven't done the math already in your head, I'm going to do this. So if you don't want to hear it, cover your ears. I'll give you 2 seconds. All right, it's 105 thrusters and 105 chest to bar pull-ups. It's a lot of reps. I'm not going to warm up by doing 15 or 20 reps at my weight on thruster, or 15 or 20 of my chest to bars. I'm not adding and compounding onto what I'm already about to do in this workout. My train of thought in my thrusters, if I can do 2 or 3 sets of 3 or 4 to make sure that I have the rhythm and the pace and that my front rack feels good, I'm going to be happy with that. As far as the chest to bars or the jumping pull-ups go, we're going to talk about this in a second. I'm going to be doing sets of 5 or maybe even 3s, and of course that's going to go down to 2s and 1s. But if I'm starting with sets of 3, there's no reason for me to jump on the bar and do 2 or 3 sets of 8 or 9 to get my chest to bars warmed up. If you're doing sets of 3, do some sets, 2, 3 sets of 2 or 3, maybe 4 reps. Just make sure you have the rhythm. Once you have the rhythm, call it good. All right? So let's move on over into the tips portion of it. And there's some really good stuff in here that we've got to pay attention to and think about. First of all, this is going to be a one and done. Not many of us are repeating these workouts only anyway, but this is one of those deals where 105 reps of each, especially if you finish, is going to tax your body, and it's just not safe and not a good idea to try to repeat this thing again on Sunday or Monday. So we're going to give this one shot. With that being said, we still have to train next week. Protect your hands. I hope I'm wrong, but I think like 80% of the gym is probably going to tear their hands. I really hope I'm wrong. I really hope I'm incorrect. I hope we do a really good job of protecting our hands, but we have to think about that. Smaller sets that we're going to get into will help do that. Also, if you use gymnastic grips on a daily, you need to make sure you have those and you're ready to go. If you have 2 sets, it's probably a good idea to have the second set out in case your first set rips. On our chest to bars, some of our chips on chest to bars. Small sets with small rest, or small sets with quick rest, is going to be a lot better than these big ginormous sets with big ginormous rest. So small sets, quick rest, just like when we did the strict handstand push-up workout. That was a good set for there as well. Platforms, we're all gonna use platforms. So platforms are gonna be a big deal, whether we use the top of jerk blocks or 45s or 25s or 15s. We're gonna want everybody to build a platform underneath of their feet so you're not wasting energy and time jumping onto the pull-up bar. All right, that's gonna be really important in this workout. On the thrusters, the exact opposite of the chest-to-bar, the jumping pull-up part, is that we wanna go bigger sets on this. This is where we get our time to, believe it or not, catch our breath a little bit, right? And get away from those chest-to-bars or those jumping pull-ups where we're gonna spend a lot of our time. So on our thrusters, if we can split up our sets or our rep scheme in sets of 3 or sets of 4 for the 33s, maybe 11, 11, 11, maybe a 13, 11, 9, you have to check my math, right? Making sure that we have a good plan or an idea of going into this thing. Like any workout, you've got a plan A, make sure you have a plan B, right? If your plan A fails, it's all right to go to plan B, just make sure that you have one so that you're not frustrated when you get there and that happens. It's gonna happen at some point to almost all of us in this workout. Stay close to the bars. So we're gonna lose time in transition here. What does that mean? Walking circles around the pull-up bar, walking circles around your thruster barbell, walking to and from the chalk bucket, right? We're gonna be losing a lot of time here. We need to concentrate that time, stay close to the bars. That's where you're gonna lose a lot of your time in this workout. So how are we gonna break this up? We're gonna go into these specifically, but here's kind of an analogy we were thinking about and talking about this morning, the boys and I. So in my opinion, we should treat the round of 33 and 27, and depending on your fitness level, maybe even the round of 21, kind of like the first 400 meters of a run, of a 1 mile run. So in the first 400 of a 1 mile, you're not gonna sprint out the gate at your fastest pace ever. You're gonna go slow out the gate, 60, 70%, just making sure you're slowly moving into that mile. If you're like myself, I usually don't feel good in a run until about 800 meters in, and that's when I start to feel like I get my breath. So treat the 33s, the 27s, and maybe even the 21s, kind of like the first 400 meters of a 1 mile run. On the back side of this workout, which we'll call the 15 and the 9s, that's where we can pick it up a little bit, we can put more energy and more intention into it, and we can treat that part kind of like the last 250 meters of a 1 mile run. So we can see the finish line, it's right there in front of us. Let's go ahead and start opening up our legs and let's start sprinting towards the end on this one. That's how I want you guys to think about this as we're going in. This is a long duration, slow kind of paced workout. That's how you got to think about this thing. It is not Fran. It is the exact opposite of Fran. So if you've done Fran, it's the exact opposite mindset going into this thing. Don't think you're gonna get these big sets and go real hard and real heavy and real big out the gate and last. Because on the back side of the workout, the 21s and then definitely in the 15s and 9s, you'll fall apart, right? It's not Fran, it's the exact opposite. I did hear a pretty good idea this morning. Some folks online were talking about take your Fran time, if you can do it RX, take your Fran time and multiply it by 4. That gives you a good idea of about where you should maybe finish. So we'll see how that works. We had some folks go this morning. I'll have to look at their times. We've got some folks that'll go at noon today. We'll figure it out. But start thinking about that after you watch the video. So let's go into the 2 movements. They're pretty specific, or they're pretty simple, I should say, not very specific. Thrusters and chest to bar. So like we talked about in the top piece, thrusters. The 33, the 27, and maybe those 21s, when we talked about the first 400 meters of a 1 mile run, 60, 70%. Smooth and under control, right? Slow is smooth, smooth is fast. You're good to go. Just ease into it. Don't try to go too hard. If you're set on a rep scheme, and let's say you get into the 27s and your rep scheme was 999, if you hit 5 or 6 reps on your second set of 9s and you feel as if your arms are shaking or you're having a hard time breathing, drop the bar. Just reset it, take a few breaths, and then move on to your plan B. Don't get freaked out. So smooth and under control in the thrusters. 15 and 9 we talked about, right? We're gonna also on Anna this one. We're gonna let it go on the 15 and 9s. That's when we need to pick it up and just rock and roll. Typically we talk about resting overhead. So typically in most workouts when we're doing thrusters, I encourage folks if they're gonna rest to rest overhead, because once you put the barbell down, you're talking 8 to 10 seconds more than likely before you pick it up. I'm not necessarily gonna encourage that this week. When you talk about time under tension, If I'm constantly resting with that barbell overhead, that means that I'm under tension. That means that my shoulders and my biceps are holding and working and waiting. And we get that 1 rep in or that 2 rep in, we have to drop it anyway. That's just gonna be trouble when we go back to the chest to bars. So I don't want you to rest a lot overhead. If you feel like you're having 1 or 2 pauses in your set, it might be better off just to go ahead and drop the bar and start over. We're gonna spend less time on the thrusters than we are on the chest to bars. So that's why it's important to go a little bigger sets. Typically we can maintain that. If you did the workout this week, I think that was on Tuesday, I believe, we had 60 thrusters at this weight programmed in. It should give you a good idea of, hey, what did I do on Thursday or Tuesday? Was I able to complete it? How did I feel? Add 45 more reps, and that's where we're at this week, but at least it gives you a good idea. So let's move on to the chest to bars or the jumping pull-ups. Small sets from the beginning. From your set of 33s, I'm still on the fence of where I'm going. I'm either gonna start with 5s or 3s, but no bigger. Small sets from the beginning with quick regrip. So that might look like, if I'm doing sets of 3, where I go 1, 2, 3, I jump down, I turn around, and then right back onto the bar. We're gonna have that platform built, so we're gonna be pretty close to the pull-up bar. There's not gonna be a lot of wasted energy in jumping. I should be able to just reach my hands up and start on my next rep. So small sets from the beginning, 5 and 3s. Just know that when we are finished with the 33s and the 27s, you're just about 10 reps past halfway. You still have 45 more to go. So just know and understand that in that 21-15-9 portion, whatever we start with here, more than likely will be out the window at that point, and you're gonna start with 2s and 1s or whatever it may be from there. So once again, don't get discouraged. Have that mindset when you start. Singles and doubles in this are okay. Singles and doubles the whole way from the very beginning is okay if you have quick regrip. That's key. All right? This is where all the time of the workout is. This is where we're gonna spend the most time working. This is where you're gonna spend the most time resting. So we have to make sure that the time we're losing here, that we have a good strategy to lose time here. That's where our rest is timed out, our sets, and we do our sets appropriately in what we wanna do. So this is where the time is. But this is it, y'all. It's not a whole lot going on. It's 2 movements. It's a test, unfortunately, that we've done 6, 7, or maybe even 8 times over the last 5 or 6 years, if you've been around that much. So you should have a decent idea of how you're gonna perform here. Obviously, with the 33 and the 27 up front, it adds a lot more reps onto it. But these movements are what they are. You know what you're good at and you're not. So anyway, it's 19.5. This is the last one, and I appreciate y'all, and have a good workout.